Pickwick Lake's in the books. Let's get into it. All right, y'all, back from the Bassmaster Kayak series finale on Pickwick. Let's jump right into the tournament, and I'll let you know how it went for me.
So I decided on an area right, I'd say closer to the dam than mid-lake, on the upper end of Pickwick. Started right by the ramp throwing a buzz bait. I always try to use a buzz bait or something like that to get a big bite early. And right away, just a few minutes after first cast, had a blow up on the buzz bait. Wasn't a big bite that I was looking for, but it was a quick start to the day. First keeper of the day in the boat. We're off and running. So I kept fishing with that buzz bait for a little while longer and had a few more roll on it, but nothing really got a hold of it. Obviously, just that first fish came up and got it. It was just a Kentucky, not a big largemouth or anything, but you know, I've got the skunk out of the boat already. Stopped fishing that, ran up to this bluff wall where I'd caught him.
I caught one on a buzz bait and had a couple more roll on it, and that's it.
That's my buddy Ryan Lambert there. He was fishing a little slower than me, so I ran past him with a square bill. In practice, I had caught some good ones, an 18 and a 17 on this channel bank. The current's kind of coming at me, if you can see it there, running a square bill. So I threw a square bill up under some of these overhangs and got bit right away, once again on it, but it was an under. It was a 11-inch spot. Fished that bluff wall, no more bites. Decided to run across the lake to some laydowns that I'd seen in practice over here that mixed in with some riprap and into the mouth of a little creek. This creek had some really good looking stuff. You see these cypress trees here. There were a bunch of laydowns and stumps going up into this creek. I always like to brag on the autopilot stability. Get hit with both boat wakes, whatever, standing to flip, it doesn't falter. I ran the buzzbait up in this creek, threw a fluke, flip, nothing going up in there. So it came outside the creek and went to the riprap just on the outside of the mouth of the creek there. No more bites, so I ran across the lake back to the bluff wall where I had started and came across this area, which was kind of a blowout in the bluff wall, and there were some rock slides there, as you can see, and there's a almost gravel bank with some chuck rock on it. Spun around into the current and started dragging a Carolina rig and a football jig on this, but you could just look so good. It came out 50 yards, like 8 to 10 feet deep before it dropped back into the channel. Had current coming over the top of it. It just made sense, for if you're pretending you're in a river, it's like a little shelf there with current coming over the top, and it dropped off into 15 feet where I'm sitting. So it made sense for fish to be up there feeding. So decided to give this a little time, see if I could get a bite. And sure enough, got bit dragging over the top of what felt like a little rock pile. And then bang, the trusty Carolina rig, get hooked up with my first solid keeper of the day. Getting in that current, you don't really know how big they are till you see them. Like, it was pulling down in that current. I didn't think it was a giant, but I still thought it might have been a little better than it was. But 16-inch smallmouth, I'll take it all day, every day. And these suckers are a little tricky to measure, but we got to measure them back in the water. Stuck with the Carolina rig for a while, maybe 2 more casts, was hooked up again. Another keeper. Same thing, once again, dragging the Carolina rig. Keeper number 4 on deck. Was able to get one more 12-incher to finish out the limit there.
All right.
And I was sitting pretty good. Feeling good with the limit on a tough day, post-cold front. Switched over to a football jig, Slowtown Customers football jig. Was able to cull one of those little dink 12-inchers out with this fish right here.
Big fish, big fish.
Not quite a big fish, but still a cull. shut down the day early because I've got some back and neck problems. You guys have heard me mention that before. Saving it up for day 2.
So day 1 in the books, had a limit, was sitting in 26th place out of 80 anglers. As always, from 12th down to 30th, the leaderboard's pretty tight. So just one pretty good fish or a big day 2 can move you way up into check range. If you have an unbelievable day 2, you can get up in that top 5. But within range, I wish I had a cull or 2. I did cut the day short, just like I have several times on day 1, so that I could make it through day 2 physically. But hey, day 2 is on deck. I'm feeling pretty good about getting into the same fish on day 2 since I left them alone on day 1 off that little shelf that I had found. So let's jump into day 2.
So day 2, I started on that bluff wall to work my way up to where I'd caught all my fish for my limit, and really nothing doing on this bluff wall. Fish pretty fast going up this in the morning until I got to my spot, what I thought was the juice. But if you look at the water there, you can kind of tell already the current is kind of dead, and sure enough, it was. I fished for a while with the Carolina rig, no bites. Switched over to a football jig, no bites, and then went to the Ned rig, kind of a heavier Ned rig. Got bit on it, but you can see that these weren't going to get it done. And this was the story of the day. I was catching unders all day. 12 inches was the minimum, and I kept catching 11.5, 11.75, 11. Just wasn't happening over there. So I ran across the lake back to the laydowns I saw on day 1. A lot of times when I see bluebird skies and no wind, no current, I think the fish get up tight to cover. So I went and found some good-looking laydown, or went to the good-looking laydowns I had found in practice. Decided to just flip a trusty Texas rig brush hog around some of these laydowns and see if I could get bit. Once again, I like to brag on the autopilot. It's great for fishing shallow. People think of it as an offshore deal, but it's great for fishing shallow. You can kind of control yourself around this cover without having to sit down and pitch and flip to a variety of targets there. And as soon as I came across, I just made a few flips to those different pieces of wood and hooked up with keeper number 1 for the day. Just solid 16-inch largemouth, fat 16-incher. And when this happened, I was jacked. I thought, okay, I'm on them now. I ran the bank here, Texas rig in hand, my Revo sunglasses on, looking for every piece of wood. There's a bunch of stumps on this deal too that I could find, and just flipped. But I went a while and got no more bites. I probably went a mile down this bank, but no more bites, even though some stuff looked really, really, really good. Even found a little backwater, some good cover in it. No bites back there either. I was getting pretty discouraged, and I came upon the mouth of this little backwater here, and as you can see, it's got a riprap with some good-looking wood cover on it. Water out where I'm standing in the boat there is probably 10 feet deep, and it goes right up to real shallow on the bank, obviously. And I had saw a bass boat run over here in practice and catch a pretty good one off this cover. So seeing it open, I had to go make a few pitches to it. Had a boat weight kind of hit me there, but autopilot, no problem, still standing even with the boat waves hitting, or the wake waves hitting me. I just felt like I was going to get a bite on this. It's just, some stuff just looks fishier than others, and this just looked really, really good. Especially because I've been coming towards this down the bank for a mile and didn't see anybody else fishing it. So I thought maybe people have left it alone all morning, even with the bass boats. Surfing a little bit. Flick of the wrist, and I'm hooked up again. I threw right up on the bank and hooked up with this one. And if you guys saw my other video about PB Smalley, this was a smallmouth right up against the bank, right up against the wood, against the bank with that rock up there, feeding on crawdads with bait or something up there.
That's a PB, y'all. Let's go.
Feeling pretty good. 2 fish in the boat. but they're both pretty good ones. I looked at the leaderboard. Even with just those 2 fish, I was up into the top 15 because it was a tough day for a lot of people. But as the day went on, it just turned out to be a tough one. I started cranking this bank after a fellow competitor told me that he was getting bit on a red crankbait, way off the bank. So I switched over to red crankbait, just like he was doing. He said he had some good keepers on it, and hooked up after, I don't know, just a few casts. But even on the red crankbait, I was catching unders. So I probably caught 12 fish on the day, but only 2 keepers.
So there you go, guys. Day 2 didn't come together like I had hoped. Only 2 keepers on day 2. Caught a bunch of unders. But, man, it was redemption for me on Pickwick because I went there last year and just got totally beat up on the lake. So I was glad to get there this year, catch some fish, figure out a little something. I really like the place. I can't wait to go back. I feel like the Tennessee River is a different animal, and I'm learning it each time that I go a little more about it. But yeah, Pickwick Lake in the books, Bassmaster Kayak Series. Can't wait to see their new schedule for next year. I plan on fishing a few more of their events next year and trying to get some AOY points where I can make sure I qualify for their championship. But hey, as always, appreciate y'all watching. Don't forget to hit that subscribe and bell before you get out of here.